I never thought I'd be the guy posting something like this, but here I am. My name's Tom, and I married the woman I thought was the love of my life, Samantha. We had our fair share of arguments, sure, but I always believed we'd get through anything because we were solid. We'd been together for 5 years, and I thought everything was perfect, until that night at our wedding rehearsal dinner. It started subtly. Samantha had been acting a little off lately, more distant, more irritable. I figured it was just wedding stress. She's a bit of a bitch sometimes, and I'd caught her lying about small things before, who she was texting, where she was going, but I brushed it off. Still, I noticed she was avoiding my eyes more than usual, and her lipstick always seemed smudged in the mornings when she'd wake up next to me. I'd ask her about it, and she'd roll her eyes and tell me I was paranoid. Classic Samantha. Then came the rehearsal dinner. My best man, Mike, has been my best friend for years. We're tight, and I trusted him implicitly. The night was supposed to be fun. Everyone was joking, laughing, celebrating. But I noticed Samantha keeping a strange distance from me that night, more than usual. She was talking to Mike a lot, leaning in a little too close, and I caught her whispering something in his ear that made her smirk. That was the first red flag, but I told myself I was imagining things. It wasn't until the honeymoon that things started to unravel completely. We planned a week in the Caribbean, and I was looking forward to just relaxing, forgetting about the chaos of planning a wedding. But on the second day of the honeymoon, I stumbled across a series of photos on her phone. I was helping her pack at the hotel when I saw the thumbnail for a picture. It was blurry but clear enough. Samantha sneaking out of the hotel late at night, her hair a little tousled, wearing that stupid smug smirk she always gets when she thinks she's getting away with something. Next to her was Mike, my best man, smiling, holding a drink, looking like they were having some secret fun. My stomach dropped. I didn't even need to open the photo to know what it was. I looked closer, and there it was, more photos. Him kissing her. Neck, her hands on his chest, both of them sneaking out together, getting into a cab. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My wife, my best friend, what the hell was going on? I kept my cool, though. I needed to see more, so I used her phone to look through her messages. That's when I found the texts, flirty, suggestive, full of promises to meet up again soon, and even some explicit talk. She was having sex with him, I was sure of it. The worst part. She lied when I confronted her about the photos, said I was paranoid, that I was reading into things, that I was overreacting, but I knew better. I knew she had been cheating on me with Mike all along, and that realization hit me harder than I ever thought possible. I spent the night wide awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything in my head. How could she lie so easily? How could she betray me like that, with someone I trusted so much? I felt a mixture of disgust, sadness, and a burning anger that I couldn't quite contain. I was furious at her, furious at Mike, and more than anything, I felt betrayed. I'd always believed Samantha was a bit of a bitch, but I never thought she'd do something like this to me, cheat on me with my best man at our wedding rehearsal dinner, no less. That's a level of betrayal I didn't even know existed. The next morning, everything felt different. I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. I needed to confront her, but I also needed time to think. I was stunned, hurt beyond words, and honestly, I was starting to question everything. The marriage, my friendship, myself. How did I get here? How did I not see this coming? It was like my entire world was crashing down around me, and I was just standing there trying to catch my breath. After that night, I couldn't sleep. I stayed awake until dawn, the images of her sneaking out with Mike stuck in my head like a fucking nightmare I couldn't wake up from. When she finally woke up, I saw the usual cockiness in her eyes, like she thought she was in the right, like she could lie her way out of anything. I knew I'd have to confront her, but I wasn't ready yet. I needed a plan. I started by watching her carefully, noting every move, every word. She was still acting like everything was fine, which only made me angrier. But I also saw her doing little things, touching her phone more, hiding her texts, being extra bitchy when I asked about her whereabouts or plans. I had to be smart about this. I couldn't just blow up and accuse her without concrete proof. I needed to catch her in the act, or at least force her to admit the truth. 2 days later, I decided to set up a little trap. I knew she had a thing for staying late at night working on some project she'd never mentioned before. I secretly installed a tiny camera in our room, one she wouldn't notice. I also kept her phone when she wasn't looking, knowing she'd try to delete or hide something. I felt like a damn detective, but I had no choice. She had lied to me so many times, I didn't trust anything she said anymore. That night, I pretended to sleep. Around midnight, I saw her get up and quietly slip out of bed. My heart pounding, I activated the camera app on my phone and watched her tiptoe out of the room. She headed straight for the door, opened it slowly, and slipped out without making a sound. I followed her on the camera, watching her walk down the hall, her heels clicking softly. She went to the hotel bar, I guessed, but I didn't believe she was just having a drink at this point. I knew she was meeting Mike again. I felt a mix of relief and rage. Relief that I had proof, but rage because I knew what was coming. I waited quietly, listening for any sounds from the hallway, but I didn't hear much. I kept the camera rolling until she returned an hour later, looking flushed, a little disheveled, and trying her best to act innocent when she slipped back into the room. She closed the door softly, but I was already recording her. That's when I decided I'd had enough. I was done with her lies, her bullshit. The next morning, I confronted her. I didn't even give her a chance to spin some bullshit story. I showed her the videos, the photos, the texts. Her face went white, and she started to lie again. She said it was just sex, that she was stressed, that Mike was just a friend helping her with wedding stuff. She said I was overreacting, that I was paranoid, that I was jealous, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I'd seen too much. She cheated, no doubt about it, and she was trying to gaslight me into thinking I was crazy. The thing is, I felt so betrayed I couldn't even process it all. I was furious, yes, but also deeply hurt. I couldn't believe she had been lying to my face all this time, pretending to be the perfect wife when she was out screwing my best man. It felt like a punch to the gut every time I thought about the wedding rehearsal dinner, her sneaking out with him while I was probably waiting at the table, clueless. She had played me for a fool, and I don't think I'll ever fully recover from that feeling of betrayal. But here's the thing, her reaction was typical. She kept denying, trying to blame me for being insecure, calling me possessive, and telling me I was imagining things. She even had the nerve to say I was being crazy for accusing her of cheating. That's the thing with her, she's good at lying, twisting the story, and making herself the victim. But I wasn't having it anymore. I was done with her bullshit. I told her I needed space, that I was pretty much done trusting her, and that I was considering my options. Honestly, there was a part of me that wanted to break everything off right then and there, but I also felt numb, like I was walking around in a fog, not knowing which way was up. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind, so naive. How did I not see this coming? I had trusted her more than anyone, and she'd thrown it all away for some stupid sex with my best man. I kept replaying the moments when I'd been so happy, so sure of us, and then comparing them to the ugly reality I'd uncovered. It was like my entire world was shattering piece by piece. Now I'm left with this mess. I don't know where to go from here, honestly. Part of me wants revenge, something to make her feel the pain she's caused me, but I also know that won't bring back what I lost. I just wish I could undo everything, go back to that guy who thought he had it all figured out. But since I can't, I guess I'll keep moving forward, trying to pick up the pieces and learn from this nightmare. After I confronted her with all the evidence, the whole thing spiraled even faster than I expected. Samantha's face turned red with rage and embarrassment, but she quickly shifted to being the victim, her usual tactic. She spat out some bullshit about how I was controlling, jealous, and paranoid, that she'd never cheat, that I was imagining things, that I was overreacting. She told me I was making a scene over nothing, that I was ruining everything with my accusations. But I didn't buy her lies anymore. I knew what I saw, what I had proof of. The way she looked at Mike that night, the sneaking out, the texts, all of it was clear as day. Still, she kept denying, kept calling me insecure. That's classic Samantha, always twisting things to make herself look innocent. She's manipulative as hell, and honestly, it made me sick to see how easily she lied. I was furious, but I also felt a deep, gnawing sadness. How could I have been so blind? How could I not see that the woman I loved was capable of betraying me like this? While she was trying to gaslight me, I decided I needed to get some space. I told her I was leaving for a walk just to clear my head. I stepped outside, took a deep breath of the ocean air, and tried to process what was happening. My mind raced. I'd always thought she was a bitch, sure, but I never expected her to cheat on me with my best man. That was next level. I mean, I knew she had a temper. She's bitchy, she's manipulative, but I never thought she'd go that far. I spent the next few hours trying to plan my next move. I knew I couldn't stay with her anymore, not after what I'd found out. But I also knew I needed to be smart because she was the type to lie her way out of anything. I started thinking about how to get more evidence, how to make her see that I wasn't going to be played anymore. I'd installed that camera for a reason, and I was glad I did. At least now I had something concrete to show her. That evening I sat her down again. I told her I needed honest answers, that I wasn't going to be played anymore. She looked at me with that same bitchy smirk, trying to act innocent, but I had enough. I pulled out the photos and videos from my phone. Her face dropped, and suddenly, all her bullshit about how she was just stressed or didn't mean anything sounded so damn hollow. I saw her eyes dart around, trying to come up with another lie, but I wasn't giving her the chance. I told her I knew about the sex, that I knew she'd been lying every step of the way. The moment was tense, silent except for her muttering some stupid excuses. It was just one night. It didn't mean anything. He's just a friend, all the typical bullshit. Yeah, right. Like I was stupid enough to believe her. But I could see she was starting to crack, her bravado slipping away little by little. She tried to gaslight me, calling me crazy for believing the evidence, but I didn't care anymore. I was done with her lies. I told her I needed time to think, that I was seriously considering leaving her. Honestly, I wasn't sure what I wanted in that moment. A part of me wanted to tear everything apart, to make her feel what I felt, to see her suffer even a little. But another part just felt numb. I felt betrayed, shattered, and exhausted. I'd loved her, trusted her, and she'd thrown it all away for some stupid sex and a few sneaky nights with Mike. The worst part. I knew this wasn't just about infidelity. It was about her character, her integrity, the fact that she'd lied to my face about everything. That night, I packed a bag and left the hotel. I needed space, I needed to breathe, and I needed to get away from her. As I walked down the hall, I kept thinking about how much I'd lost. Not just the woman I thought I knew, but the friendship, the trust, the idea that I could ever be vulnerable again with someone I loved. The betrayal cut so deep I wondered if I'd ever feel normal again. All I knew now was that I couldn't stay with her. I had to figure out what I was going to do next, but one thing was clear. My life was never going to be the same after this. The next few days were a blur of chaos and reflection. I stayed with a friend, trying to keep my head clear, but honestly my mind kept circling back to everything I had discovered. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her sneaking out that night, that smug look on her face, the text from Mike telling her how much he wanted to see her again. It was like a film I couldn't switch off. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I didn't see that she'd been cheating on me for months. She called me repeatedly during that time, trying every tactic in the book. First, she begged, crying and saying she loved me, that it was a mistake, that she didn't want to lose us. Then she started lying again, insisting she and Mike never actually had sex, that it was just some drunken makeout and I was overreacting. That she was stressed, tired of the wedding planning, and somehow all that made it okay. I couldn't stand her manipulative tone. It was like she thought she could twist her way out of this mess with her lies, but I wasn't having any of it. I blocked her number, deleted her from social media, and tried to focus on myself. Honestly, I felt like shit. I'd loved her, trusted her, and she'd played me like a fool. Every time I thought about those photos, those texts, I felt a deep ache in my chest. I'd never felt this kind of heartbreak before. It wasn't just anger, it was raw, all-consuming sadness. How could someone I loved so much be capable of betraying me so completely? The woman I married, who had always been bitchy and difficult, turned out to be a liar and a cheat. One night, after a few drinks to numb the pain, I started thinking about revenge. Not some stupid, childish revenge, something calculated, something that would make her see just how much she'd messed up. I wanted her to feel the loss, the betrayal, the heartbreak I was going through. I knew I had the evidence to expose her, and part of me wanted to do that loudly, publicly even. I had a feeling she'd continue lying and gaslighting, but I also wanted her to realize that I wasn't going to be manipulated or played anymore. I started digging into her social media accounts, looking for anything that could give me more leverage. I found some old messages from her to her friends, some revealing comments about how she hated feeling trapped, how she loved the thrill of sneaking around. That confirmed what I already suspected. Her lies were just the tip of the iceberg. She was a manipulative, selfish woman who enjoyed the drama, who thrived on secrets. That realization only fueled my rage. I also reached out to Mike. I didn't want to be the guy who blindly accused, but I wanted to hear the truth from him directly. We met up in a quiet cafe and I laid everything out calmly. His face was guilty, and he admitted that they did have sex, more than once actually. He tried to justify it, saying she was a little wild, and that she was the one who pursued him. I didn't even get angry, I just saw the cowardice in his eyes. Because at the end of the day, they both betrayed me, and I didn't care about their excuses anymore. That meeting solidified what I already knew. My wife had been lying and cheating, and her best man had been complicit. I felt a mixture of disgust and relief. Disgust because she'd been so manipulative, and relief because I finally had the facts I needed to make a decision. I realized I couldn't stay with her, not after everything I'd uncovered. I couldn't live with the idea that she'd been pretending to be the perfect wife while secretly screwing my best friend. So I made a decision. I was going to leave her completely. No recycled apologies, no working things out. I was done. I told her I'd had enough, that I deserved better than to be played for a fool. I told her she could keep her lies, her excuses, and her cheating ass. I wanted out. I didn't want to waste another second on someone who'd betrayed me so badly. I was done being the victim of her schemes. I started planning my escape. I found a place to stay, packed some clothes, and prepared to cut my losses. It's funny how, in the midst of heartbreak, you find a strange clarity. I knew I'd have to rebuild my life from scratch, but at least now I knew the truth. I knew who she really was, nothing more than a manipulative, selfish woman who threw away everything for a few nights of sex. That realization hurt, but it also freed me. I finally saw the situation for what it was, and I knew I'd be better off without her. Now it was just a matter of getting out and moving on. The day I moved out, I felt a strange mix of relief and devastation. I packed my essentials and left the apartment we shared, knowing I wouldn't be coming back. Every step I took away from her felt like shedding a heavy weight, but at the same time it cut deep to realize I was walking away from everything I thought I knew: my marriage, my best friend, the woman I loved. It was surreal, like waking up from a nightmare I couldn't escape. In the weeks that followed, I stayed with a buddy, trying to piece my life back together. Honestly, it was the hardest thing I'd ever done. The betrayal haunted me every day. I kept questioning everything: how I missed all the signs, how I didn't see that she was capable of this. It ate at me that she'd lied so effortlessly, that she'd robbed me of the trust I once had in us. The constant replay of her sneaking out, the texts, the sex, I couldn't unsee it. It was like a scar that wouldn't heal. I started doing things I never thought I'd do. I got a new job, joined a gym, even started therapy. I needed to understand why I trusted so blindly. I realized that my biggest mistake was giving her the benefit of the doubt every time she lied or acted bitchy. I was so eager to believe she was just stressed or upset that I overlooked the signs. That's what hurts the most, knowing I was played, knowing I was blind to the whole thing. But I also knew I had to accept the truth if I was ever going to move on. One of the hardest parts was telling my family and friends. They all knew she was a bit of a bitch, but nobody expected her to cheat. When I finally told them everything, they were stunned. Some blamed me for not seeing the signs, others were furious on behalf. The worst was when I got a call from her trying to apologize, more like trying to manipulate me into forgiving her. She kept crying, saying she loved me, that she'd changed, that it was just a mistake. But I knew better. I'd seen what she was capable of, and I wasn't about to let her pull the wool over my eyes again. I knew I had to set some boundaries. I blocked her on everything: social media, phone, email. I didn't want her to keep tormenting me with her lies or her fake apologies. I also started to tell friends the truth, hoping they'd understand why I'd been distant or angry. I didn't want to be the guy who hides the pain, but I also didn't want anyone to think I'd been stupid. I'd been blindsided, yes, but I was stronger than that. I was beginning to see that her betrayal was a reflection of her character, not mine. Most of all, I was trying to forgive myself for trusting her so blindly. That was the real heartbreak, realizing I'd given her so much of myself, only to be betrayed in the worst way. But with time, I started to heal. I knew I'd never fully forget what she did, but I could learn from it. I could become someone who didn't just trust blindly, who looked out for himself a little more. I realized that sometimes love isn't enough. People will lie, cheat, and betray, and you have to protect your heart. Now I'm just focusing on moving forward. It's not easy, and I still have bad days, but I know I'll be okay. I don't see myself ever forgiving her fully, and honestly, I don't want to. I just want to find peace, to rebuild and maybe find someone who's worthy of my trust again. This experience taught me that love can be a beautiful thing, but it can also be a trap if you're not careful. And sometimes, the best thing you can do for yourself is walk away before it destroys you. That's where I am now, trying to piece my life back together, stronger and wiser than I was before. Months passed, and I thought I was finally beginning to breathe again. The sting of betrayal never fully left, but I managed to push through the worst of it. I started dating casually, never rushing into anything serious. Trust was shattered, and I knew I needed to rebuild my faith in people, especially women, but also in myself. The hardest lesson was learning to forgive, not her but myself, for having trusted her so blindly for so long. One day I ran into Mike again, randomly at a coffee shop downtown. He looked uncomfortable as soon as he saw me, which in a way was satisfying. I just nodded, looked him in the eye, and didn't say a word. I didn't need to. The truth was clear enough. We exchanged a brief, cold glance, and I realized I'd finally let go of the anger I'd carried for so long. That chapter was over. I understood now that some betrayals cut so deep that they change you forever, but they also teach you about your own strength. Looking back, I realize everything I went through was a brutal wake-up call. I learned the importance of paying attention to the little signs, trusting my instincts, and not ignoring red flags. I also learned the value of self-respect, that I deserve someone who genuinely cares, someone who doesn't lie or manipulate my love. I refuse to settle for less anymore. My experience was a harsh lesson, but it made me realize I was worth more than I ever knew. The hardest part wasn't losing her or my best friend. It was losing the naive belief that love and trust could conquer everything. I now see that sometimes honesty is the rarest thing of all, and if someone repeatedly lies, they don't deserve your forgiveness, at least not right away. Forgiving isn't forgetting, and it's not about excusing what they did. It's about accepting that you can't change the past, only how you respond to it. Today, I'm in a better place. I still have scars, but they're healing. I've learned to value myself more, to set boundaries, and to recognize red flags early. I don't regret the pain because it forced me to grow stronger. I've come to understand that betrayal is a reflection of who someone is, not who you are. And that realization has freed me to eventually open my heart again when I find someone truly worthy. So to anyone out there dealing with heartbreak or betrayal, I'll say this: trust your gut, protect your heart, and never stay somewhere you're not valued. Love isn't supposed to hurt this much, and if it does, it's okay to walk away. Sometimes, the greatest act of love is knowing when to turn your back and walk towards a better life, without regrets. I've done that, and honestly, it's the best decision I ever made.